I'm 72 years old. My husband cheated on me in 1980. And I'm going to tell you something that'll make you uncomfortable. It was the best thing that ever happened to our marriage. I know how that sounds. 44 years later, we're still together. And for the first time in 50 years of marriage, I actually know who he is. But the cost? I lost a part of myself that never came back. Look, I'm not going to romanticize infidelity. I'm not sitting here saying it was necessary. But I'm going to show you the brutal math. The affair destroyed a lie and forced us to build something real. But real hurts every single day, and you never stop paying. September 1980. That was the day I discovered my husband had a second life. But what really destroyed me wasn't the woman. It was discovering that for 16 years I had loved a stranger, and that he was more alive with her in 4 months than he'd been with me in nearly 2 decades. Let me back up. We got married in 1964. We were both teachers, 23 years old, intellectual, serious. You know the type. We thought we were better than other couples because we discussed Sartre over breakfast instead of sports scores. 16 years. That's how long we were together before the affair. No children. That was his choice. He said he wanted to focus on our partnership. I agreed. I thought it made us sophisticated. From the outside, we were perfect, the respected couple. Victorian house, we restored ourselves, monthly book club dinners. Everyone called us the intellectual couple of the neighborhood. But here's what they didn't see. We were co-authors of a performance. He recited poetry at the dinner table. We discussed philosophy. But we never touched for reason, never laughed at stupid things. Our marriage was an academic thesis, well written, but bloodless. I remember 1978, our 14th anniversary. He gave me a first edition Virginia Woolf. Perfect, thoughtful, soulless. I thanked him, put it on the shelf, never read it. Neither of us noticed. Here's the lie I believed. Mature marriage is serene. Passion is for teenagers. Intellectual companionship is superior to physical desire. My mother told me when I got married, intelligence lasts longer than beauty. Marry his mind, not his hands. And I did. I built an entire marriage on that lie. I thought sex 3 times a year was sophistication, that sleeping in separate bedrooms because of different schedules was practical. For 16 years, I convinced myself that coldness was maturity. But there were signs. I just chose not to see them. I found a new poetry book in his bag, Pablo Neruda. Erotic, intense. We'd never read Neruda. I asked about it. He said, just curious, then closed the subject. I didn't push. Then, spring 1980, he started wearing different cologne, younger, bolder. I commented on it. He laughed and said, trying new things. I said, it doesn't suit you. He kept wearing it anyway. I told myself he was having a harmless midlife crisis, that it would pass, that men need these little gestures of rebellion. I never imagined the gestures weren't for him. They were for her. So here's what happened. September 18th, 1980. Thursday, 3:45 in the afternoon. Downtown bookstore. Poetry section. I was looking for material for my literature classes. I turned the corner by the modern poetry shelf, and there he was. My husband, with a woman I'd never seen. She was maybe 26, short red hair, ripped jeans. opposite of me in every way, and he was reading Neruda to her, out loud, in the bookstore, laughing, touching her arm, alive in a way I'd never seen him in 16 years. I didn't leave. I stayed. I watched for 17 minutes, hidden behind a bookshelf. I saw him hold her hand. I saw her kiss his neck. I saw them buy 3 books together, books he never mentioned at home. And you know what? It wasn't the betrayal that broke me in that moment. It was the expression on his face. He was light, spontaneous, young, everything he'd never been with me. I realized right there, our entire marriage had been a cage he accepted, and this 26-year-old had the key. So I confronted him that night. He cried. He said, "With her, I don't have to be the man you designed. I can be stupid. I can like rock music. I can dance badly. With you, I always felt like I had to deserve to be in the same room." I sat down on the kitchen floor, literally collapsed. Not from pain, from understanding. 16 years. I had built a museum, not a marriage, and he'd found someone who let him be human. So here's what I did. I didn't ask him to leave. I asked him to stay. I said, "If you want to go, go. But if you stay, we're tearing down this lie." We started therapy 6 days later. Not regular couples therapy, brutal therapy. 3 times a week for 7 months. And the fallout? Our principal called both of us in for a meeting. She said, "Personal issues cannot affect the school's image." We didn't lose our jobs, but we lost respect. Our book club friends stopped inviting us. We were the perfect couple. Destroying that image forced them to look at their own marriages. They hated us for it. We sold the Victorian house. Too much history, too many ghosts. We bought a small, modern apartment, started from zero. We lost $34,000 in the quick sale. We spent $180 a week on intensive therapy. Our retirement fund got cut in half. And here's another revelation. He never wanted children because he said he didn't want to reproduce mediocrity. He was talking about our marriage. So let me tell you what I learned. Here's the truth nobody wants to accept. In some cases, infidelity doesn't destroy the marriage. It destroys the lie you've been calling a marriage. And if you're brave enough and masochistic enough, you can build something real on the rubble. But here's the brutal part. Infidelity can save a dead marriage, but the marriage you save isn't recognizable. And the person you become, the one who agrees to build on top of betrayal, you never fully recognize yourself in the mirror.
Let me tell you about Margaret, my colleague teacher. She discovered her husband had an affair in 1983, divorced immediately. "I don't negotiate with betrayal," she said. Good for her, right? She remarried in 1985, divorced in 1988, married again in 1991. That ended too. At 74, she's in her 4th marriage, all respectful, all boring. Here's what I learned from Margaret. Dignity without struggle is sometimes just pride disguised as standards. She never learned to build something real. She just repeated the safe pattern. Then there's Robert and Anne, couple from our therapy group. He cheated in 1979. They tried to rebuild, 5 years of intensive therapy. They divorced in 1985, but here's the detail. They remained best friends until he died in 2019. Anne told me, "The therapy saved us as people, but not as a couple, and that's okay." Sometimes rebuilding means accepting that you build separate lives. There's no failure in that. There's just honesty. Now, let me ask you some questions, and I want you to really think about this. If your partner cheated, do you want to rebuild the marriage you had, or do you have the courage to admit that thing was already dead? Can you look at yourself and ask, what role did I play in building a cage instead of a home? Are you angry about the affair, or are you angry because the affair proved something you already knew? And if you're in a good marriage right now, does good mean real, or does it mean polite? Can your partner be an idiot in front of you, or does he need to perform? Do you know who he is when he's alone, or do you only know the version of him you approve of? If he disappeared for 3 days, would you miss him, or just the routine? Think about that. Here's what I'd do differently if I could go back. Stop confusing intellectual compatibility with real intimacy. Stop thinking passion is immature. Marriages die without hot blood. Stop building expectations so high that your partner needs to perform instead of exist. And start this. Start allowing imperfection in you, in him, in the marriage. Start the conversation about who you really are, not who you should be. Start accepting that salvation through crisis means accepting you failed first and having the courage to start over knowing you might fail again. Look, I'm 72 years old. Maybe I have 8 years left, maybe 15. Who knows? What dies with me? The memory of the woman I was before, the cold professor who thought coldness was sophistication. She died in 1980, and sometimes I miss the safety of being her. The woman I am now is more real, but she never rests. I still have that first edition Virginia Woolf from our 14th anniversary, perfectly preserved, never read. But I have something new, too. A cheap, worn copy of Pablo Neruda, the one we bought together in 1981, during the rebuilding. Dog-eared pages, coffee stains, notes in the margins, real life bleeding through the pages. The first book represents the marriage we lost, beautiful, valuable, dead. The second represents the marriage we built, imperfect, messy, alive. I prefer the second, but I'll never throw the first away, because you can't forget where you started, even if you hate who you were. So, if you just discovered an affair, don't let anyone tell you what to do, not to stay, not to leave. But if you choose to stay, know this: you're not fixing, you're demolishing and rebuilding, and 90% of days during the first 5 years you'll want to quit. The question isn't whether it's worth it. The question is, do you have the stomach for it? And if you're in a good marriage right now, perfect is a warning sign. Perfect means someone's lying. Could be you, could be him, but someone's performing instead of living, and performances eventually collapse. Better to dismantle carefully than wait for the explosion. If this story bothered you, and it should bother you, share it with someone living in a comfortable lie. Leave a comment. Tell me, have you ever discovered that the person you loved was a performance, that you married an image instead of a human being? How many of us are married to masks? This channel shows what decades of unspoken truths actually cost. No romanticizing, no easy happy endings, just what we learned too late. Subscribe, because comfortable lies age badly.